started off with Ember. So, how many of you have worked in JavaScript? Everyone, right? So everyone's comfortable with JavaScript. How many of you have actually worked with Ruby? Ruby developers as well. So, JQuery? That's good. So, what client-side frameworks are you aware of? MVC or any MV star framework. It can be MVVM, anything. Backbone. What else? Knockout. What else?
Dojo.
Angry. Dojo. What else? That's it. So, has anyone ever heard of Ember before? Yes. Do you know what is Ember? And what do you know about Ember? What is your perception of what Ember is? It's an MVC framework. What else? Single page applications. Okay. Scalable applications. Okay. Cool. That's absolutely alright. So this is session on Fire and Up with Ember. Why I asked if any of you are Ruby developers, in fact, is because the creators of Ember, Yehuda Katz and Tom Dale, they actively contribute to the Rails community, and Ember pretty much is written sort of as a client-side model of Rails. You will come across a lot of things that you will see in Ember.js, which will remind you of stuff that you see in Ruby. So I'm going to get started. Cool. So let's talk about web apps. How long has it? What is the average time that you guys have been doing web development? So 1 to 5 years. More than 5 years. Oh, okay. Less than 1 year. Okay. So web apps today have become very, very different from what they used to be. Right? Initially, the web apps that you would see if you go on a site like, say, Times of India or something like that, you will see that there's a lot of content, the performance is slow, the page takes time to load, and now what is happening is we are entering into an era, we have already entered into an era where things need to be faster. We need things faster, we need things to be visually enriching. We have sites deployed every day which are, one mega image on the entire page, some little bit content here and there, and you click, you navigate, it has beautiful transitions, you go from here to there, jump around. The experience of the web has now changed. It's not the same as it used to be. Like, if you were developing in, say, in the year 2006, you would be probably writing a lot of just pure core JavaScript and trying to bash out the HTML and CSS to try and get one site working. But now today you have stuff like Bootstrap, which allows you to create a site in like 15-20 minutes. Right, so I'm going to talk about single page applications in general. So you look at any kind of application that today is primarily a single page application. So everyone wants a single page application. What is a single page application? Open question. Single page application? Refresh the DOM. Okay. What else? Single page application?
One page.
It's a one page. What else? Anything? So it's essentially, yes, it is a single page application. The entire code, the entire DOM, entire HTML, CSS is essentially one page. But how does that give you the experience of an entire site? Does it? What do you think? No? Yes? Maybe? It does? How does it do it?
It's designed in such a way that you don't have to navigate on so many different pages, but you can have everything is on the same page.
So why a single page application? It's easy.
User
User-friendly. User-friendly, easy, what else? Why a single page application? Why did we ever feel the need to move to something like a single page application?
User experience.
User experience. What kind of user experience?
User need not to wait to refresh the whole page. He can only the content of a particular area gets refreshed depending on the functionality.
Cool, that makes sense. So that is essentially what single page applications are about. All of you are correct. Kudos. So the thing is that there was a reason why single page applications came into being, and that is because of performance. Essentially performance. Initially, when web applications were being built, you were actually asking for a lot of files over the HTTP. You would ask for file A, file B, JavaScript A, B, C, CSS, X, Y, Z. And there will be so many calls over the HTTP that over a period of time, building a complete web application would bloat up your application size to such an extent that managing it and actually serving it across the internet was becoming a problem. Today, we have WebSockets. So you don't need to actually go and call an HTTP. You just open the WebSocket and have the JSON float all over you, right? The second thing that came into picture was a lot of the data that was there moved from your server into the client. By data, I don't mean data, I mean logic, a lot of logic. So initially how web applications were that your server will process everything, it will give you everything computed and it will give you like a complete model. And all you do is just render the model the way it's supposed to be rendered. But today, we move it to such a way that the client, the server, rather gives you just raw data, gives you plain, pure JSON, and we do a lot of processing front end. And due to that processing, we change the way our site looks, the way our site interacts, behaves with the user. And that is probably the point why single page applications today have just come into the picture in a big way. So moving on from single page applications, we know JavaScript, right? Yeah. We know JQuery. What's beyond JQuery? So what does the meme say? What does the meme say?
JQuery is just a subset of JavaScript. JQuery is just a library.
Yes. What is JQuery? Why do we need JQuery? What does it help us do?
It's a main site. Basically sucks.
The
DOM API basically sucks.
Right, absolutely. That's a brilliant answer. Yes. So we use jQuery for what? DOM manipulation. What else? Name one more thing we use jQuery for. One more. Ajax. But that's also not jQuery, right? $.ajax, fine, yeah. So yeah, DOM manipulation, Ajax. What else? Yes, manipulation, interactions, whatever. So, apart from that, jQuery does not aid us in anything. So what do you think is the role of jQuery when it comes to building a large app or any big website? What is the role of jQuery?
Just to get a platform.
Yeah, but jQuery really doesn't help you there, right? At the end of the day, you're still writing JavaScript code. You have a model that you have to define. You're gonna go ahead and write object-oriented JavaScript, and you're just gonna define your model, and all the interactions will be without jQuery, right? So when it comes to building apps, the essence of the app, jQuery is pointless. As in jQuery pretty much just plain sucks there, right? So we actually look at some more stuff. So what consists of an app? An app has a user interface, right? What else does an app have? By app, I mean a web app, a native app, any kind of an app. It has a data model, perfect. What else? Processing logic, what else? Persistence is with data, right? Data persistence. Data is essentially anything to do with data, persistence, delivery, whatever. Then, obviously, you have the architecture. These are the three things that make up an app. Agreed? Right? So, you have the user interface, which is essentially HTML and CSS. You have the data model, which can be your server, which can be your client, which can be your local storage, which can be cloud, anything. right? And you have your application architecture, which is the core logic, which defines how everything is gonna stitch up together, how everything is gonna work in sync with each other, right? And now we're gonna map it to something which we already know. So user interface is your view, right? So what will be the data? Think MVC. Model. And architecture? Why controller? Just because this is the last one left. Absolutely, yes. So the controller is architecture. But is this all? Is having a model, a view, and a controller enough to get you up and ready making a web application? Not really. What is left? Obviously, I'm going to say that if I know how to create a view, I know how to create a model, I know how to create a controller, I can tie them together. What is the one piece missing? You need a router. Perfect answer. So I move on to the third part, which is pretty much device agnostic. So what are the devices saying? URLs. A URL. What is a URL? What is the thing that comes to your mind when you look at a URL? You look at facebook.com/user/abcd user. What is it? It's a path. It's a state. Right? It is something. I can pick up this particular URL and I can give it to you, and you will have the same state as I did. Right? If I go to Twitter and I go to twitter.com/ExpertTalks and I take the same thing and I give it to you, you will also see this, you will get the same experience that I'm getting. Hence, the most important thing here is routing. Without routing, your MVC framework is pretty much baseless. Why do you need routing? You need routing because you need to be aware of the state in which you are in. At any given point of time, the state of the application is defined by the URL. Am I logged in? Am I logged out? Am I looking at a user's profile? Am I looking at a user's pictures? Am I looking at a tweet? You go to any site today, you go to Twitter, you go to Facebook, you go to SoundCloud, you go to any site, the one thing that allows you to uniquely identify where you are and what you're doing is the URL. And hence the most important concept that comes into picture here is routing. Now, how many MVC frameworks, people who worked with MVC frameworks have the concept of routing? Backbone has it. Angular also has it. What about Knockout? Does Knockout have routing? What about Dojo? Dojo have routing? So, without routing, how do you think these MVC frameworks work? You have no context of what state you are in. So what do? You manage the state yourself. You are, at the end of the day, end up writing a lot of custom JavaScript to do something which should ideally always be provided to you by default as a part of the framework, right? And now we'll actually skip from what exactly is an MVC architecture and all, and we'll get into the core stuff, which is Ember. So Ember was created by Yehuda Katz, who is the co-founder of Tide.io. He is a contributor for Rails as well, and Tom Dale. Both of them amazing developers. So in Ember.js, I'm going to talk about the model, view, controller, and router. So I'm going to cover up all the basics, and I'm going to give you a very basic idea of what Ember is and how you can go about Ember in general. Right? So at any given point of time, if you have any kind of a question, if you feel that I'm going too fast or if you feel that I'm going too slow, just let me know and adjust the speed accordingly. So in Ember, I just start ahead with the view. Can anybody identify the image? Handlebars, perfect. What is handlebars? It's a template library. What's a template library? DOM. It basically creates DOM. It creates HTML, right? We all agree? It creates HTML, handlebars. Name any other templating framework. Have you heard of anything else? JQuery. What else? Mustache. What else? So handlebars is based on Mustache. It's essentially they are all father, son, grandfather relationship stuff. Anyways, what else? Yeah, but okay. I mean, agreeable. Yes. So obviously there are many more. There is JTemplate. There is godlike stuff. Now the first thing that I would like to inform you, that the first thing that you have to keep in mind while we start with this is that Ember is not a server-side MVC, right? So do not at any given point of time confuse it with MVC4 or Spring. Okay? Now, looking at the view. So do you want me to get into a demo right away? Are you good with that?